Hi everyone, good morning. It's 9 a.m. It's Wednesday morning in Stockholm, Sweden. Donny here. Innovation Fika, episode 174 of my Wednesday morning coffee break with incredible people with incredible ideas and fantastic discussions in the world's fastest half an hour, where we get to meet incredible people like my dear old friend Nicklas Bergman. Woo! Welcome to the studio.
Good to be here.
It's awesome having you here.
We have a sound in the background there.
I think it's because...
it's us.
I know, it's this one.
It's us.
Hang on.
Okay.
We're live on Instagram as well.
Even better.
I'm just saying that if you're watching us on Instagram, we won't be able to see the comments. So if you want to just jump on like LinkedIn or YouTube and comment, because then we should get the comments on screen as well. Just want to say before I intro you as well, as you come online, everyone, make sure to say who you are, where you're from in the chat, so we get the chat going and get the comments going. Always nice to have people commenting and asking questions. But jumping straight into this, not only the world's fastest half an hour, but probably the fastest half an hour I've ever done with Nicklas Bergman. Who are you?
I've known you for more than 30 years.
Yes.
Yes, which is crazy.
Yes.
When we talk about it.
We must have been like 5 or 6 when we met each other, right?
Yeah, exactly. 7.5. Well, I'm one part entrepreneur, one part tech investor, my own investments, and through the EIC fund, which is the European Commission's venture capital fund, 100 investments per year in deep tech companies. And then I'm one part where I try to think and act and reflect on where we're heading, where we are. And I do that in what we're going to talk about today, these forecasts that I do, the Techstorm forecasts, and also as an advisor and sometimes on stage as well.
Yep. Cool.
Yep.
Yeah. And then you do this Techstorm thing.
I do. It started out like, 10, 15 years ago when I was looking at investments, looking at where we're heading. I've always been really, really interested in the future, in science fiction, in physics, and in new innovations and that. So I started compiling this list of technologies that I was following myself. Yeah. Showed it to someone and they say, you should publish this. And I did. Very low key in the beginning. Yeah. And now it's, still low key, but now people start asking for it. Yeah. Right before, because I try to do this, what I'm planning to do now is 3 times a year. Yeah. One at New Year's, general one in the spring like today on geopolitics, and then one a bit cynical on AI in the fall, which is absolutely needed, really, 100% needed. So, and I've done this since 2017. Yeah. I enjoy it. It's good for me to gather my thoughts, gather my thinking, and then I try to share it with people and get a discussion going, actually. Yeah. So that's it.
Cool. We're actually getting the comments in here. It's kind of hard to see on screen, but I am actually seeing comments here. Let's see, Champasari, great. Super glad on that call, got pushed, getting my coffee. Gothenburg, Jakarta, Sydney, Stockholm. Look, all over the world. Awesome. Matthew James from Sydney, awesome. And Ramon from Jakarta, really good seeing you all. So, and how often do you do the Techstorm?
3 times a year, that's the plan. It's been 4 times. Up until now, but I'm rescheduling this a bit to do more of a general tech storm, all deep tech in 1st of January. Okay. Then spring with geopolitics as it is now, and then as I said, the fall with AI focus. Okay. Yeah. Cool.
And so now we have the spring edition.
The geopolitics edition.
The geopolitics...
Which is amazingly current, right?
It's amazingly current.
And when I was compiling this, it was just so crazy. But I was actually... Haven't we had this set up for today? I don't think I would have done it. Because it's so hard with all the moving parts right now. It's just crazy.
It's like the machine is like come apart and every part is moving.
Yeah. And I mean, when Trump was inaugurated in January, I brought out the popcorn and thinking, this is going to be a ride. Yeah. And it is a ride. It's been a ride. There's quite a lot of things that I don't agree with, but it's it's entertaining.
Yeah.
And scary at the same time.
I know.
Yeah.
It's like a really scary roller coaster ride.
Yep. Yep. It is.
With very loose wheels. So anyway, but the thing is, we only have a half an hour, so let's jump straight into. And that's what I just want to say though. I am so grateful and in awe that you're here today doing this live. I mean, this is a live. We're actually, and it was just released yesterday, like afternoon, evening.
No, I sent it to you. I haven't actually posted it yet.
It's not even posted yet. We're the first. Hey everyone, we are the world's first people to see the spring edition of the Techstorm
Geopolitics edition.
Geopolitics edition. I always get that one wrong. Anyway, look at this. Techstorm Forecast Spring 2025 Geopolitics Edition. Let's just run through the sort of the you have it's a list from like 10 to 1, right?
Yep.
And then subjects that sort of become more or less current. So if we start with number 10, genetic engineering, and that's 10 going down.
And just to give the sort of the context, I mean, my perspective on this list that I do is, okay, what are people talking about today? In my world, when it comes to, I mean, I meet with startups, innovators, I meet with politicians, lawmakers, God forbid, other investors and that. So this is a very subjective, sort of biased list.
Of course,
But it's me. Of course, I take input from other people and from some automated systems everywhere. But it's sort of a snapshot of, okay, where's people's, where do they have their focus right now? Yeah.
Cool. So anyway, number 10.
Genetics. Well, it's that one is fascinating because for me, that should be more top of mind. But it's really not. People, maybe because it's dropping on the list, but maybe it's because people are so focused on conflicts and war and trade wars and actual wars and that. So, but it has a lot to do with what we are able to do in genetics. And the geopolitical perspective of this is actually that our ethical and legal boundaries are so different in different parts of the world. So there's a lot of things that can be done in Europe that can be done in the US. There's even more things that can be done, for example, in China that can be done in Europe and the US. So that's why it's on the list. I think there will be a lot of things happening here in the coming years and decades.
I mean, and I'll agree with we have. I'm jumping in because everybody watching as well, please comment as well and on your thoughts of this.
Tell us when we're wrong.
Yeah, exactly. Tell us when we're wrong because I mean we have a CRISPR project here. They're doing CRISPR genetically modified potatoes that can actually survive.
I thought we were going to say students.
No, not yet. Potatoes. Well, that will be probably. No, I'm not going to insult students. Say they're the same thing. No, but potatoes that can survive plus 7 degrees Celsius than normal potatoes. So they're designed for warmer climates, climate change, like India and things like that. And people today, they're going, oh, fantastic! It's a potato that can survive climate change. Not, oh my God, you're genetically engineering potatoes. You know.
But that's Sweden. That's here. It will be a marketing challenge to launch that in other countries. Well, but, as it is.
As it is. So 10, genetic engineering. 9, space access, going down as well.
Also coming down, not because it's not interesting, but because, and you'll realize that when we come further up the list, that the competition on this list is kind of high. Space is interesting. We have a lot of countries that are doing more work in space these days. India, Japan, China. We got new ideas and plans to go to back to the moon. We got, of course, plans to go to Mars. We can discuss if that's the best use of money or not, but that's up to each and every one to decide. And it's both like orbital or near orbital sort of geopolitical competition when it comes to satellite coverage, space wars that we're really trying to avoid. And I mean, there are treaties around that, but there's quite a lot of competition around covering the space with satellites, both when it comes to surveillance and and when it comes to communications. You have Starlink from SpaceX. That's just one thing where we now start to realize that they can, the US and Starlink can pull the switch on that one. Meaning that we probably need to have alternatives. Same goes with the GPS standard, of course. So there's a lot of interest in that.
But it's not as hot anymore right now compared to the other.
Not right now, but then you had yesterday or the day before where this, I forgot the name now, this German space startup.
Yeah, that one.
The most beautiful crash ever, I think. I mean, the setting, that was just so good. So shout out to them. Good work. Keep up the good work.
I love the part about it. This is what success looks like. And it was like a...
And it was in an Arctic setting up north in Norway, and it was a beautiful crash. It was.
Number 8, robotics and autonomous systems, down as well to 8.
I mean, all these 10 technologies or these areas, all these 10 areas are hot and interesting. So this is sort of a relative list, but robotics is, I mean, we see a lot happening in humanoid robotics. But from a geopolitical perspective, as of now, I don't see it as an intense competition on the front lines. It's not really competing head to head between nations or regions. This is more on a corporate level where each and every one tries to get their humanoids going. Literally speaking,
Number 7, cybersecurity.
Let's skip that one. It's just so boring. I mean, it's relevant, useful. A lot of things happening. We have as part of that, we have this hybrid warfare that's happening. So all that is definitely on the list there.
Okay, we'll leave that one.
Flip.
Energy systems down as well.
Same thing here. It's down because it was way up last year because of especially the energy challenges that we were facing in Europe.
Of course.
In the last couple of years here.
But it's interesting though, the ones that you've had so far, like 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, they're all, they're all fully relevant technologies, but they're kind of being pushed down because there's other things that have become sort of more in our sort of what's top of mind.
And that, I think, is it's an interesting challenge. It's an interesting mind game to play, to see. I mean, because this is not only my subjective thinking, it's when I talk to people and information I gather, but I'm sure that if someone else would do this exercise, maybe that their list would be different. Especially if you're from another country or have a different perspective or different background. So, I mean, that's how it is.
We're halfway through the list.
Just a few comments on energy.
Please, go ahead.
It's interesting to see that the cost of energy is, I think, not being discussed as much as it should be today. We discuss it when it comes to your heating of my house or the energy consumption of my house, which is an old house, leaky as nothing you've seen before. So it's expensive to heat that house in the winter. But more on a national or on a level of competitiveness. Meaning that we as Swedes, as Europeans, we really need to make sure that we have an energy availability at a reasonable cost. Because we see what's happening in other parts of the world, where, for example, you're still burning coal and oil and gas.
And building more coal.
And building more,
plants.
meaning that you have a lower cost of energy. In China, they have, more than 50 nuclear plants in production, or in that are in producing energy. They have more than 20 under construction and are planning to do another 70. And the energy cost that you can get out of these power plants, because they are streamlining the production of these things, and the energy cost coming out is lower than offshore wind. It's half of what we can get from nuclear here in Europe, for example. Meaning that they already have and will have an even more intense competitive advantage for their industry, for their production systems. And that is something that we really don't talk about.
That's a really interesting aspect of energy, and I'm going to say what Nicklas said here, but that's a really interesting aspect of energy that we don't talk about enough when it comes to the cost of energy and what we actually, and the consequence of the cost of energy.
No, exactly.
As I said, we're halfway through the list. Nicklas Bergman, Geopolitics Edition, Techstorm. Please keep the comments going. I'm getting, let's see, let's just check in here with Champa. I think it would be a good reception to the genetically modified potatoes. Many places, as we seem, rice and juice. Jutes. Feel free to get in touch with me, and I'll connect you with the potato guys. Is the energy transition not fundamentally critical for Europe to stay competitive?
100%. And I think you asked that right before I sort of answered Freddie, before I saw it. No, absolutely, 100%.
Yeah.
We need to be there.
Yeah.
And I mean, in hindsight, there are quite a few things that we should have done different. Or without revealing too much, I think there are a few things that the Germans should have done different when it comes to nuclear, for example.
Yeah.
And then we can discuss if nuclear is good or bad or how we should do this. But in general, we need to make sure that we have a competitive energy system.
And we haven't even started talking about that there's this new thing called AI that kind of uses a lot of energy as well.
Yes, I've heard about that. Yeah.
Number 5, quantum computing, up.
It is. And quantum is up and down on the list.
Yeah.
And it's been for since I started this, both on this geopolitical list and on the general list that I publish in January. And the reason it's up is twofold. One is that it's been quite a few breakthroughs in quantum recently. Google had this announcement, I think late fall, early winter something, when they actually reached 2 quantum states. They managed to reduce error exponentially while scaling the number of qubits they were using, which is a really, really impressive engineering feat to do. And then the measurement you're using, just to simplify, the measurement you're using to compare different quantum computers, they peaked that one, which is also really, really impressive. So that's one thing, that we see a lot of things happening in quantum that pushes the boundaries of what we've seen before. Not that I mean, with all the money being poured in, people, at least in the quantum industry, expect things to move forward.
Yeah.
But still, when it happens, it gets to the news and people get excited, and even politicians start to talk about it. The other part is what will happen when we have working quantum computers.
Yeah.
We will see it in logistics, in finance, in healthcare, and in pharmaceuticals, and the development of new drugs, etc. But one thing and that's why this is an arms race between US, China, and Europe to a certain extent, is that we will see cryptography.
Yes.
Quantum computers are believed to be able to break all the codes that we see. And I just read an article the other day where people say that this will happen, yes. And some people even state that, well, it might already have happened. Because imagine you have a quantum computer and suddenly you can break all the codes.
Yeah.
Do you publish that with a press release? No.
No.
You would use it.
Yeah.
Like, for everything shady that you could think of, Donnie, you would use it. Like stealing bitcoins from people or checking other people.
I would never do that.
No, but I'm speaking hypothetically.
Of course.
With your high moral standards, you wouldn't do it. You would just give it away, right? You would do the press release.
I would, but I'd never admit it. Of course not. No.
Yeah. So we see that, and there is a small chance, but a fair chance that we actually have quantum systems that are starting to break codes already.
Yeah.
But we don't know about it.
But the scary thing then, it would be then that they are then probably in some kind of governmental, and then probably in a government that is not trying to make the world a better place.
No. Like the Area 51 of quantum computing.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Okay.
Why should he tell someone?
Interesting. All of these can have its episode of themselves later on. Number 4, materials and natural resources. Number 4, up.
Well, that comes from part of my background, my interests, where I've been working for a long time ago, and that's in material science and nanotechnology. And always when people ask me, what is the one thing that people don't talk about? And that is new materials.
Yeah.
This is also absolutely around novel materials and that, but mostly today, as we're seeing, of course, it's the geopolitical consequences of the need for rare earth metals, for example, for our semiconductors and our EV batteries and everything. And I mean, it's number 4 on the list, of course, because of what we hear now around Ukraine and the minerals deals, Greenland. There's a lot of, well, I mean, and that is actually a question, because they talk about it in regards around Ukraine. They talk about it like hidden discussions around Greenland. I feel that it's a bit difficult to understand exactly how valuable these findings are in these regions and countries. But it's definitely part of the equation when discussing these.
I just read a really interesting thing, I think it was before yesterday, which, again, there's so many things that are kind of out there, but we don't really talk about. And you mentioned things like nuclear power, going back to, and what we should and what we shouldn't do, I think. And then suddenly somebody says, yeah, by the way, 25% of all the uranium in Europe is in Sweden.
Yeah.
And then people are going, yeah, but we don't want any mines in Sweden. We want we want uranium, but we don't want any mines in Sweden. But so mine it somewhere else. But we have like 25% of all the uranium in Europe, in our mountains in Sweden.
And we also have quite a lot of rare earth metal deposits. And for your non-Swedes out there, the mineral regulations and laws around mining in Sweden are strange, to say the least, but meaning that this will take time. That's
another episode. Number 3, defense technology is up. Well, that's maybe not a surprise, but
not much to say there, actually. It's just as it is. But what's interesting, I see, coming from a European perspective, I mean, I'm part of the EIC fund, which is the European Commission's deep tech investment vehicle, where we do more than 100 investments per year. And when that got started, in the discussions before the start and in the start and in the charters of that fund, of course, no defense technologies. Small dual use could be done, but not much. And now that whole sentiment is changing. We see that private and public investors are more and more inclined in actually investing in defense. Defense stocks are doing great, especially the European ones. The American ones, not so much, because they see backlash from the Trump administration and what they are. I mean, when you don't know how the U.S. administration is reasoning and what their objectives are, of course you start looking at other suppliers.
But now I'm sort of I have 2 things I want to just comment on that or discuss on that. Is one, I'll just nod and affirmatively say I go to a conference in Estonia like every year in Tartu. So like 2 years ago I went there, startups, the normal startup, but it was kind of a bit talking about deep tech and things like that. And then they invited me back this year to just talk about specifically deep tech. What is deep tech? Demystify the deep tech thing. And it was like from one year to another, it was kind of no defense and like only defense. It was like such a transition. That was just as a reflection to what you said, that it's how quickly it has changed from kind of something doing dual use over there to everybody running for the money and going for the defense technology over there.
And I mean, I get invites to all these investor conferences, and suddenly it's dual use and defense and that a lot more than before. Yeah,
that's one thing. And the second thing was, it's really again a reflection, Jess, because what you just said, the defense industries up in Europe and the US is kind of but that's very, very big money, very powerful money in the US. That do you feel that they're being sort of disgruntledly like not so happy with what's going on over there
in the US?
Yeah.
I mean, you hear one thing from the administration saying that the rest of NATO, they must increase the defense spending, etc. And then, of course, if you're a small nation thinking of buying new fighter jets, and if you're a member of NATO, of course, the U.S. alternatives has been more or less the only alternative. And now with the sentiment and the discussion going on in the U.S., of course, you at least start thinking about the alternatives. Meaning that's a challenge.
That's a very interesting geopolitical, shift that we don't see yet. But that's super cool. Interesting. Number 2, computer hardware. Okay.
Yes. I rephrased that one from semiconductors since last year. Just to make it a bit more, to broaden the perspective a bit, because it's, yes, I mean, we had if you remember the pandemic. You do?
There was
We're trying to forget.
There's something that happened like a couple of years ago.
Absolutely. But I mean, after that and during that and after that, we had a huge semiconductor shortage. We
I remember that one.
I mean, everything from your toasters to your new car, whatever it was.
Exactly.
And we see that still in a large extent. We see that the semiconductor shortage is probably not that severe anymore. We see that companies, the large foundries, the large manufacturers of semiconductors in the world, which are mainly in Taiwan and South Korea, the most advanced ones, they are investing heavily in production outside of their home turf. For example, in the U.S., TSMC is investing, I think, $165 billion in Arizona, build 3 factories. Part of the deal that Biden did in his end of his administration.
But it's all thanks to Trump now.
Of course it is. Of course it is. Yeah. I don't mind taking credit of things that other people do. Or blaming people for things that I did. Absolutely. No, but it's interesting, and that is, for me, that is one of the most interesting things happening. Is that, I mean, China is absolutely very interested in Taiwan. And the bargaining chip, pun intended, that Taiwan has in a global setting is the foundries. The TSMC, which is the manufacturing facility of semiconductors in Taiwan, TSMC. Now that TSMC is building factories in other parts of the world, that bargaining chip is not that useful anymore. Now, still, for another couple of years, what they are manufacturing in Taiwan is more advanced than anywhere else. Meaning that the factories in the US will not be able to produce the same advanced chips as they do in Taiwan, but that will change in the coming years. Meaning that we will be less dependent on Taiwan as geographical location for these things. But on the other hand, we will be dependent on the US. In Europe, there are initiatives, there are plans that might have been starting to build these facilities.
But isn't there a Dutch company that works in...
Well, yeah, and that's the other part of it, is you have... so TSMC is licensed manufacturer of, or contract manufacturer of semiconductors for like Apple or whoever. And then ASML, which is a Dutch company, is actually manufacturing the equipment that TSMC is using to build the chips. Meaning that way back in the value chain, there's one company in the world, a Dutch company, that can manufacture the machines that manufacture the chips. Meaning that it's really, really, again, from a geopolitical perspective, it's really, really interesting. And that is like, it's so complicated, so advanced that no one has been able to copy it. Not the Chinese, not in the US. No one can do it.
Fascinating.
Meaning that, so from the very, like, in the back of the value chain, the manufacturers of the machinery that manufactures the chips. And then on the other end of this, which is a segue to number 1 on the list, which everyone can guess what it is probably, is that companies like NVIDIA doing the GPUs, the processors that are used in data centers that are used to train the AIs. There is also really, really competition around what kind of chips are they allowed, or what kind of processors are they allowed to sell to China, for example. Not the advanced ones, the simple ones. And they are instead being sold to Singapore, which has suddenly an enormous influx of GPUs for data centers, but not that much data centers, meaning that they are shipped to China through that. Okay. So there's some kind of smuggling going on.
That's like the Russian oil thing.
Exactly.
Like
so
suddenly, you know, we have all of these embargoes in Russia, but they're still selling oil like.
So there's like three aspects of that: the GPUs and where those can be sold and who can get access to the NVIDIA, mostly NVIDIA GPUs. Where can we build or manufacture the chips that goes into the GPUs, and there's virtually no competition around the machinery that are used to build the chips that are being used in the GPUs.
It's a fascinating value chain, and fascinating chain of events, and also the whole idea then of let's close all borders and every country for themselves and forget about free trade and everything like that. And we kind of it's so complicated when you actually start looking at the full. I mean, I always make the joke about, this is an old joke. You've heard me. People who watch this have heard it before. But you know, the Swedes that complain about, oh, we need to really look after ourselves, and whatever you do, don't buy anything from China, and you know, and don't do anything with China, and then they get in the Volvo and drive home. Which is like, but that's been like Chinese for.
No, I'm from Gothenburg. For me, mentally, Volvo is still a Swedish car. 100%.
I know. Yeah.
I want to keep it like that. I don't want to.
No. Okay.
Don't interrupt my thinking here.
Wonderful. And, ladies and gentlemen, drum roll. I haven't added any kind of clip art drum roll sound effects to this one.
Post-production.
Number one, AI.
AI, of course. And, I mean, just to start, we're in just to set the stage a bit on AI. AI is short-term, 100% a bubble. In my world, especially when we look at valuations in AI startups, and also the sort of what they call magnificent seven of the large tech companies in the US and that. So it's 100%, my opinion, a bubble. I've seen it all before. This is my, I don't know, fourth tech bubble that I'm experiencing, and it's just crazy. It's just crazy. And yesterday, I had to check it again and again because OpenAI yesterday announced that they were doing a new funding round. So they've now, the latest funding is $40 billion at a valuation of $300 billion.
I saw that as well. I thought it was an April Fool's joke first.
Yeah, me too. And then you can always say, okay, fine, this is impressive, they got a lot of things going for them, blah, blah, blah. I just, from the very early beginning of generative AI, what is it now? 2.5 years ago, almost, since they launched publicly the first version of ChatGPT. What is it? Almost 3 years ago they launched DALL-E to the public. And from the very beginning, I've been surprised and quite skeptical about many of those AI investments. Because investors do it in an ecosystem, an AI ecosystem, where you don't know the players, you don't know the value chain, or how that ecosystem will evolve. In an emerging industry like this is, it's almost impossible to know where the value will be created. Will it be the picks and shovels? Well, for now it is, like NVIDIA, or the data center providers. Will it be in the fundamental, the models, the large language models? Well, the value is created there in terms of value for the investors, but there's no value in profits yet. Or will it be further down the line, closer to the end user, like the layers on top of the large language models? Will it be the chatbots that you use, or the apps that use the large language models that you train on legal documents, for example? All these things are very interesting. We have one, and there's a few of them. One Swedish company, Lovable, that are doing coding on top of these models. Amazing progress, amazing development for that company. I've tried it. I'm not a coder myself. I've tried it quite a few times, and maybe it's me, but I just can't get it to work.
No. I've heard other people say the same.
Yeah, I start with some amazing idea for an app that I need. Nothing like complicated. And then there's a bug, and I can't work around it. But maybe it's just me. I don't know. So what's interesting in this is that there's so much hype around this. There's so much FOMO that investors just throw money after this because they don't want to be left behind. Yeah. And it's going to be interesting to see where this ends up. I don't know. But unless OpenAI sort of gets to true artificial general intelligence, I can't see a justification for that valuation.
I heard a really interesting reflection. My colleagues of mine were down in Hello Tomorrow in Paris, the tech conference, and they had a really interesting discussion amongst investors. They were saying, we're not interested in investing in AI-based SaaS models because they're so easy to replicate that there's no moat. There's nothing. There's no inherent. There's no sort of substance value that nobody else can replicate in 2 days. Yeah. Because these guys built it over the weekend. Yeah. Then some other guys can build the same thing next weekend. What am I investing in? I mean, where do I get my the protection for my investment? Because there's no moat.
No, absolutely, and I mean that's a parallel to what I've just been saying, that it's so challenging for me to really understand what are the building blocks of this industry, what are the moats, as you say, what are the competitive edge for these different companies, and I mean, what I would like an AI filter on LinkedIn, take away all the prompt suggestions, do this, and 5 ways to do that. Yeah. But one interesting thing I saw yesterday was that someone that compared the different models to different kind of work. So if you want to do that kind of work, you should prompt this model to do that, etc. And for me, that's also very fascinating from an end user perspective. I'm interested in this. I use these systems. I use these apps more or less daily, or I do daily. But I only use 1 or maybe 2. Yeah. I only pay for 1 right now. Yeah. I canceled the other subscription.
Same here.
And still, so for me, that one model is slightly better than the other one because that's the latest iteration on that. It doesn't really matter. I'm lazy in that sense. Yeah. So for the SaaS models or the LLMs as of now, for me, it has more to do with convenience and laziness from my side, which one I pick. But from a geopolitical perspective, China has a big need of GPUs, building data centers. That's happening in Europe, that's happening in the US. You have Evrock, this Swedish data center company that just announced their next big funding round, where they are building European data centers for European data, where you don't want to put governmental data in other parts of the world, which is really, really interesting. And you got all these things happening in data centers connected to the energy need that we discussed earlier. And that brings up another more environmental and almost ethical question around this. Should I prompt as much as I do? Because it's crazily expensive.
Yeah, I know. And we had research,
and energy consuming.
I know. We had researchers here that was like, how much does a prompt cost in actual, energy and climate impact when it comes to like carbon footprint
and water consumption.
And it was mad. It was like, okay, you did a prompt of where to go to holiday in France, and you've just driven a car like around the world. It's like a stupid amount of energy.
Yeah, and meaning that for me to take this to true artificial general intelligence will not happen unless you approach AI from a different. In a different way.
Do you follow Gary Marcus online?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, it's good.
I think
it's a good reality check.
I like Gary. I mean, I know we follow each other on LinkedIn. I like Gary Marks a lot. If nothing else, it's a reality check. You know, it's the other side of the AI hype. Yeah. So I recommend following him. If nothing else, just to get a more nuanced picture of what's going on. I'm looking at the time here, and we're past our half an hour. This is like the world's fastest half an hour, as I said. But it's been a great half an hour. It's been a fantastic half an hour. Yeah. We've had the Techstorm Geopolitics edition. I really enjoyed this episode. Spring 2025. I just hope Nicklas has enjoyed it as well. So he'll come back the next time he's doing a launch, and we'll do the same thing all over again.
Absolutely.
Everybody online, I will say. Go ahead.
Just say one thing, because I'm recompiling this a bit. I'm going to do some writing around it. So in the next couple of days, I will share this one. This one pager can be shared immediately. I think if you have
I have
to do that. Yeah. But I'll so if people want to check my Substack, subscribe there, and I'll make sure that everyone will receive it in the next couple of days.
Of course, subscribe to Nicklas' Substack. Follow him on LinkedIn. Everything will be published the coming days. I'll also republish this episode with some cuts and also links to both Substack and your LinkedIn. Thank you, Nicklas, so much for coming today. Awesome.
Good to meet you.
And thank you everyone for being online. Thank you for commenting. Thank you for coming in from both Jakarta, Sydney, and Gothenburg, and all over wherever you came from. And thanks for commenting. And I will see you next week, 9 a.m., same place, same time. You know that. But that's next week. Now is now, and Nicklas is here. So I will say again, thank you, Nicklas.
Thank you.
Thanks,
everyone. Enjoy. Have a good day.
Goodbye
or evening.
Have a great day or evening. Exactly.